All right, so let's get into the business of the day. First of all, I'm going to be discussing about HTML, the theory behind it. Then afterwards, then we can move into the practical aspect of it, where we get our hands a little bit dirty with it. So let's dive in. What is HTML? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's not a programming language actually. It's a markup language. It is the backbone of all web pages, all websites that has ever been created. Every website is first built with HTML. It depends on HTML. HTML defines the structure and the content of the web page. So all websites is made with HTML. It's the first thing that starts up the website. It gives the website its structure. All website uses HTML. Yes, it structures the text, the images, the link, and the multimedias. So everything you are embedding into the site, it is first done with HTML before you start styling it or giving it functionalities, which is done with CSS. So it works alongside CSS for styling and JavaScript for interactivities. But first of all, HTML is the first and the backbone of all websites. It's the first thing that comes into play when when a website is viewed on a browser when building a website. So the basic structure of an HTML document. First of all, we have the doc type. Now what this does is that it communicates to the browser what type of file this is. In this case, it's an HTML file. So it tells the browser that okay, this is you are working with HTML file, so the browser knows the best way to render it. Now, because we have other types of file, for instance, which is XML, but that's outside the scope of this tutorial. Then the second thing is the HTML tag itself. As you can see here, it is the root of the HTML document. It encompasses everything. This is it here, because every element you see on an HTML document starts with almost elements starts with a opening tag and a closing tag. Yeah, so it encompasses everything, you see. Then we have the head. The head contains the metadata of the document, for the title, the styles, and it's also important for SEO purpose. SEO means search engine optimization, which is out of the scope of this lecture, but it is one of the things that defines your performance, the performance of your website on Google search engine. So it's very important, and HTML plays a very important role in SEO. So it basically tells the browser or anything that is rendering the HTML document what the file is all about. So it contains the title and the styles and information about the document itself. Then we have the body. The body contains the visible part of the content. So everything you see on your browser when viewing on a website, when viewing a document on a website or a page on a website, is everything that is contained within the body of the HTML document. So now the HTML document, one of the important tags, or one common tags we see, is the heading tag, which starts from H1 to H6, and they move in the order of importance, the H1 being the most important and the H6 being the least important heading. So H1 to H6. As I also said, all elements starts with an opening tag and closes with and has an opening tag and a closing tag. As you can see here, the anchor tag, now the link, has an opening tag and a closing tag. So so we have heading from H1 to H6 in the order of importance: H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and then H6. Then we have the paragraph tag, which is exactly what it says. It contains paragraphs in a web page. So when you see a paragraph on a web page, a write up that is framed as a paragraph, it is usually contained within the paragraph tag. So the paragraph is for structuring paragraphs, just as the word says. It's as simple as that. Paragraph. When you need a paragraph on a web page, you use the paragraph tag. That's all to it. Then we have the image tag, which is exactly what it sounds like. We use it for embedding images within a web page. So when you want to add images to your website, you use the image tag. Then second, afterwards we have the list. We have the UL for, which stands for unordered list, and the OL, which stands for ordered list. So ordered list is when you have your 1, 2, 3, or your I in Roman figures. While on order list is just when you have those dots, dots. There is no order to it. It just points to show you that it's a list. Then attributes in HTML. Attributes provide extra information about elements. Example is when we look at the anchor tag. Now the anchor tag is used for links. When you want to add links to your HTML document, your web page, use an anchor tag, which starts with an A and it closes with the same A. So when we are discussing about attributes are they add extra information to HTML elements, just like we saw with the image tag here. The image tag this is the source and the alt tag. The source is an attribute, and it points to the direction of the image you want to embed, you want to import into your HTML document. Then the alt tag is for SEO purposes, for people that can't maybe they might be blind. So it describes exactly what the image is about. So if we are talking about if your image is about a football field, you might try something like a soccer field or a football field in the alt tag, so that people that can't see it, people that can't see the image, they can at least listen to what the image is all about. All right, so moving on, we have the target. Now the target what the target does is that it opens a link in a new tab. So when you click a link, rather than the browser directing you straight to the new web page, it opens it up in a new tab. I'm sure we're all familiar with that. And I spoke about the anchor tag as well. I think I skipped this when I was discussing about paragraph. So like I said, it's for link. When you want to include link in your web page, you use an anchor tag. Then HTML forms, they are used to collect user inputs, your name, your last name. That's basically what we use HTML forms for, to gather data on users. So the common form element we have is the inputs, that's the text input, the email inputs for your email address, and the password. Usually when you are inputting your password on a web page, it does not show what you are inputting. You just see a dot. So that's the password input. It doesn't allow users to see what, or you see it but very briefly what you're inputting. You see it briefly, and then it turns into a circle. We'll discuss about that later on. So then the last is the button. Button can be used for many things, but when a button is found within a form and it is the last element in that form, it's usually used for submitting the form. Then semantic HTML tag. Now this has to do with like I said earlier, it has to do with SEO, majorly SEO. So what they do is that they add meaning to your HTML tags. They add clear meaning to your HTML tag. So before now, or maybe before HTML5, some years back, when we want to group content together, we would use something called a div. That is an open bracket, div, then a close bracket. And the problem with the div is that they don't have meaning. They don't really have meaning to it. It's just a generic container. But with semantic HTML now, what we have is section. So what section does is that it explains it communicates that this is a section within a web page. So when bots like Google bots, Bing or Yahoo bots come over to your site to to review your site, to index your site, or how will I put it, just to understand your site, to understand what your site is all about for SEO purpose, and they see a section, they will understand that the bots would understand that this is a section. Oh, this is a section, rather than when you use a div. A div does not really give any meaning. Now, I'm not saying that a div is not usable. It's still very usable and still very useful. But when you are dealing with section, it is good to use a section tag. Now, another one is aside. What aside generally means is that it's content that is not relevant. It's not directly relevant to what your web page is discussing about. For instance, maybe you want to put advertisement on your website. Every advertisement should go inside aside so that it does not confuse the bots on what your site is all about. Now a human being can understand what your site is all about, even if they see advertisement. But things like bots, machines are what rank your websites on search engines. It's machines that also communicate what your website is all about to people with disabilities, people that can't see, if they can't hear. So the machines communicate it. If they can't hear, maybe there are other ways they can do that. If they can't see, then the machines, all those text to speech reader, they will communicate what your website is all about. So it's important that you, when you are creating a website, you optimize it for human beings and also for machines. First of all, for the point of SEO and for people with disabilities, so that your website is accessible to all. So then we have the nav for navigations. Usually you're going to have links inside your nav. Then we have the articles. Now, anything that goes into an article must be something that can stand out on its own. For instance, now we have a website that is discussing about front end development, and we are discussing about a lot of things that pertains to front end development, and I reach out to a section where I'm discussing about HTML. Now, I can decide to put HTML on its own within the article tag, and the way I will write about HTML, I will discuss about HTML in length, that even if I take it out of that website and I post it somewhere else, someone will still be able to understand what HTML is all about. That is what the article tag is. Anything that goes into the article tag should be able to stand on its own. Think about a sentence, for example. Now, a complete sentence that is easy to understand. The boy goes to school. That is a complete sentence. Then if I divide it in half and say something like goes to school, that is not a complete sentence. So whatever is going into the article tag, it must be something that can stand on its own. That even if I crop that part out of your website, it should be able to stand on its own. Now, all these are best practices. Will I say it's not compulsory, but if you want your website to stand out in terms of SEO and many other things that are very important, it's not. I would say it's not compulsory, but it's very important. Yeah. So always include an alt tag in your images. Close all elements properly. Yes, they should have a closing tag, and then keep the structure clean and readable. So that's all. And now we'll be diving into the practical aspect of things. All right. So let's get on to the practical aspect of things. This is what we are going to be building: a portfolio page. It's not very pretty, but this is where we are, and this is what we are starting with. We are getting there. So we are going to be building a portfolio page just like this, while I explain to you what every one of these elements are. Alright, so first of all, I've created an additional folder. You don't have to do this, but just to keep my code organized, that's why I did this. So this was the former file we use. This is a new file folder I created, and I also included 2 images which I'm going to send to the WhatsApp group for us to use and move along as I'm developing the site. So I'm going to open up my VS Code. If you're on Windows, you can click on the square button to look for your app. Click on it. I'm going to zoom out. Now I'm going to look for that same folder. So this is my HTML folder. I'm going to open it up. And as you can see, these are my two images already that are here. Yes, these are my 2 images already that are here. So I'm going to go back to my folder, and I'm going to open up a file. I'm going to call that file index.html, and you can see that file has also appeared here. As I'm creating it here, it has also appeared here. So let me close this up. So we are trying to create this. And actually, I'm going to open up that file again. Yes, okay, this is the folder, and I'm going to open it up in the browser, in my browser. So the file is empty right now because I haven't done much on it. I'm going to close this back and bring my code back here. So this is the file in the browser, and this is my code with the file right now. So I didn't do anything too complicated. It's just open the file in the browser and open the file in your code editor. So sorry for the whole arrangements and stuff, but just open the file on your browser and open the file in your editor. So this is what you are working with now in your editor, and whatever changes you make will show up here. I hope that makes sense. Alright, so let's start developing. Alright, so let's start building. Just to maximize this. And the first thing that comes to mind now, like I explained in the slide, is the doc type. You can see that my code editor is already completing it for me. It's called IntelliSense, and VS Code is already completing that for me. So I'm going to click on enter, and it's done that for me. So the first thing is the doc type, which it tells the browser what the document is. In this case, it's an HTML document. So the doc type tells the browser that this is an HTML document. There are other types of documents like XML, which is outside the scope of this course, so we're not talking about that, but that tells you that there are other types of documents, and this simply tells the browser that this is an HTML document, and as such it should treat it as an HTML document. So the second thing that comes up in the structure of an HTML document is the XML tag. Now you can see that this is my AI here trying to auto-complete it for me. So it's watching what I'm doing and trying to predict my next move, and it's actually correct. I'm just going to click on tab. No, before I do that, let me first explain. This is how tags work in HTML. We have an opening tag, and you are clicking on HTML, and then we have a closing tag. It did this for me automatically because I've set up my browser in a way to make my work more productive, so it does this automatically for me. But normally that is your opening tag, then you would have a closing tag, HTML. That's how it works. So after that, then we have the head, HAD. So the opening tag and the closing tag. closing tag has a slash afterwards. This is the less than symbol and the greater than symbol. Then the closing tag has a slash after the less than symbol. So what goes into the heading tag is the title of your page, and then the link, the link to your style sheet. As you can see, my AI is doing that for me, but I'm not going to click on enter because I want to do this myself. So your title tag, and the title tag is what shows up when you visit a website. For example, let me open this in a private window. And if I go to my website, this is my personal website. So this is the title tag here. This is what I have in my title tag. So whatever you put on your title tag, it shows up in the tab of your website. Yes. Now, to see the HTML behind every website, what you would do is you right click and click on view page source, whether you're using Chrome or Brave or any other browser. Right click and click on view page source, and you will see the HTML that is structuring that website. This is all the HTML behind my website. As you can see, this is all the HTML that is written behind my website. So any page you visit, be it Google, Amazon, Jumia, any website, if you want to see the HTML behind that website, you will simply right click and view page source. So that's it. So let's go back to what we are working on. So that's what the title tag coming. But in this case, let me just see my portfolio, since that's what we are working on, portfolio. And what comes after is other meta tags, which are good for SEO and the likes, or your style sheet. You can also put your style sheet within your head. Then we have the body tag. First you start with an opening, then the body, then we have a closing tag. Yes, closing tag. You can see that my code editor is doing that for me automatically, even though I'm trying to, as much as possible, not to allow it to, so I can clearly explain what's going on in here. So now the body tag is what you see on a web page. Everything that is within the web page, everything you see in this web page is within the body tag. It's embedded within the body tag. For instance, now let me use an h1 tag and say portfolio. So this is our site. If I click on refresh, you will see a portfolio. So everything you see within the web page is encased within the HTML body tag. So everything that comes up within a site is within the body tag. So I guess that's all. That's practically it when it comes to the structure of an HTML document. Now let me just clear this up and just do it the way I would typically do it when I'm creating a website. You don't have to memorize every syntax I give you, but it's important you understand how they work, what they do. You can't memorize it all in one go, but as you continue to practice, it will become a part of you. But as of now, it's important you understand what they do rather than just memorizing them. What they do is more important, because when you know that something does this and you need it to, you might not know the syntax, but you can easily look it up or ask an AI when you know what it does. I hope that makes sense. So when creating an HTML boilerplate, what I usually do is that rather than writing it all up from scratch, click on Shift 1 it will bring up this exclamation mark, which is something from Emmet. Emmet is within Visual Studio Code, and it allows us to do things faster. So once the exclamation mark has come up and I can see this, just click on your tab button and voila, everything is done. Your head is there. So for this head, I'll change it from documents to portfolio. Now this meta tag is for we haven't discussed about it yet, but it's also one of the meta tags that come within the heading tags. And what this means is for mobile responsiveness, that it ensures that your website is mobile friendly. It can be viewed on a mobile phone and it's easier to work with on a mobile phone. We'll talk about that later on, hopefully, when we head over to more advanced things like responsiveness. So now let's try to create what we see here. Now the first thing we can see here is a heading tag. As I explained earlier, we have from H1 to H6, from H1 to H6. Now H1 being the most important, and then H6 being the least important. So when we have, this is how we do it, H1, then you close it. So this here is the opening tag, and this here is the closing tag. Alright, so this is an H1 here. Now think of a title like when you are writing a book. Now the title of that book, that is what the title tag is. Now the H1, these are the headings in the book. From the top heading to the lowest heading, we have the chapter, the first heading, the subheading, and on and on and on. That is where the H1 and the rest come in. I hope that makes sense. So welcome to my portfolio. That is an H1 tag. If we refresh our write-up, you see welcome to my portfolio. So we are getting there. This here is a paragraph tag. I should have asked you to guess. This is a paragraph tag. So when you want to include a paragraph, you use the P tag. It has a closing tag. Okay, look at what my AI is doing. So P and copy and paste. This is my personal website where I showcase my skills, as you can see here. But let's add more to it. I have some of the best works in the world which are sure to draw your attention. Alright, our website is not too fine, but at least we can have pride. Okay, when we are refreshing it, we can see that we are getting there. So now the next up is this. Can we imagine what these are? What kind of element these are? They are anchor tags, as I said earlier. We have the opening tag and the closing tag, and then we have the href attributes. We spoke about attributes as well. They give extra meaning to an HTML element. In this case, what the attribute does here is that it helps us point the link to somewhere. Now, anchor tags can do two things. They can direct you to a page, to a web page outside your document, to another web page, or they can direct you to a particular position on a web page that you are currently on. In this case, you can see that when I click on this, it's moving me to this section, to the project section, and this is the contact section. If I click on contact, it's landing me down here. because that's where the contact. So in our case here, the links are pointing to a particular position on our document, but they can also point, as you normally see in websites, they can point to another web page outside your website, or another web page within your website, or they can also point to a particular position on this same web page. All right, so we have the about link. So when you want to use a name, you put the name within the within the two tags. So what is shown here is what is placed within the two tags, just as we have the H1 and the P. So the about, I'm just going to click on tab, so it does that for me. Tab again, the about, the project, and the lastly the contacts. Yes, we're getting there. So you can see that we have gotten there. Now I want to group this link together. First of all, I can use the div tag, that is div, and then I close it, and then I'm copying this and placing them here. I can do this and it still works. And it's still shown very well. But as I spoke earlier, the div tag is for generic. It's a generic element. We can use it for grouping things, for wrapping things, and for styling. But it's a generic element. But what we can see here is that what this implies, what we can see in this page here, is that this implies navigation. That means we are clicking it and it's navigating us to somewhere else on the page, or it could even navigate us to another web page. So these links are for navigations. And when we are talking about semantic HTML, we want something that is meaningful, not just for people that can see, but also for machines, robots, and for people that have disabilities, because it's the robots that optimize our site for people with disabilities. So we have to optimize our sites for both humans and for robots. In this case, it will be better if we use a nav, because it's more semantic. It gives meaning that this is a nav, this is a navigation. It's easier to understand, this is a navigation. So, and it's more SEO friendly, because it's the robots, it's the Google bots, it's the bots that index your site for SEO. If I'm saying SEO a lot, just know that when I say SEO, I'm referring to search engine optimization. I think I said that earlier, and it's how your site ranks in search engines for a particular keyword. So for better SEO, we should make our HTML more semantic. So this is more meaningful than just saying div. All right. So for the next one, we have a section. This whole place is a section. It's an about section. So we can decide to use a div to do it, but we have something better actually, which is the section tab. Like I said, it's all about meaning. If I use a div, it accomplishes the same task, but when we talk about giving meaning to your HTML document, about accessibility and about ranking SEO friendly site, it's better to use semantic tags. So we are using an opening tag and a closing tag. As you can see, my code editor keeps doing this for me automatically. So let me separate this, and this would be an H2. If this is an H1, welcome to my portfolio. This should be a subheading, which should be an H2, H2. So I'm going to click on tab because at this point I hope you already understand how it works, the opening tag and the closing tag. So that we can be fast, I'll click on tab. So we have an H2. Then about. Then the paragraph tag. That's pretty much it. So if I go back to our own page, this is what we have so far, and I refresh it, you will see that we are getting there. This is okay, it's about me, not about me, and we're getting there. So I'll just call this the about section. And I would comment this out. Now to comment on MacBook, you are going to press command and /. To comment on Windows, you are clicking on control / on Windows, control / on Windows. Now when you comment, what you are saying is that you don't want it to be visible on the HTML page. It's not, but if I uncomment this, it's going to be visible here. You can see it here, about section. So what are comments for? Comments are for leaving notes, so that just for leaving notes, so that you can understand what you are doing. Maybe if you are coming back and you want to do a particular thing, you just leave a note here. So it does not affect your code, it does not come up, but it allows you to know what you are working with. Or maybe perhaps you want to send your code to somebody else to work with, and you want to leave a comment on what they should do with your code, do this and that. You can easily include it in your page, so you can explain to the person where they need to work on. That's what the comments is for. Then moving on, we are going to move on to the project section. So we're going to create a new section and title that the project section. You can see that my AI is already working on some things for me, but I'm not going to click on tab because I want to do this myself so that we can understand what's happening here. So section, H2, click on tab so that they can automatically bring it out, and we're clicking on projects. As you can see here, my project, actually my projects. Yeah, we're getting there. So now these are links, these are lists, which is what I'm going to get into now. As you can see, this is the first list, this is the second list. These are a list of projects that was done, a list of projects. Now we have two types of lists. We have the ordered list and the unordered list, and I will demonstrate that for you. Now for the ordered list, OL, so you have an opening tag and a closing tag. Opening tag, remember most elements start with an opening tag and a closing tag, then followed by an LI for the list item, opening and closing tag. So we are going to say this is the first item, first item on the list, then another li list item, click on tab and say second item. Now watch what happens when I refresh. So first, second, so you can see that it has a numbering that shows an order. I can also change this to I and I, which is Roman numeral, Roman figure, but that's until we get to CSS. But what I'm trying to show is that the order list has an arrangement to it. It has a numbering and an arrangement. While for unordered list, which is UL, okay, let me click on LI, and this time let me give it item 1, item 1, LI, item 2, and observe and see what happens now. So you can see that it's just dot. There's not really an order to it, it's just dot and dot. But this one has an order 1, 2, that's why it's called an ordered list. And here we have an ordered list. It's not really much, but you can tell that this is, even though it's not 1, you still know that this comes first, item 1 and item 2, but this one explicitly shows the order towards it. But that's pretty much what it does. So I'm going to comment out this because we are working with unordered lists as showed here on this our website, our portfolio. So for the first list, you can see that it has an heading. This is an H3 heading because it's within the project. This is H2, about me H2. Then this is a heading, this is a subheading under my project, so this will be an H3. So we have an H3 heading. Let me copy that. Then we have an image, and then we have a simple website I built. Alright, let's get to work. So first of all, let's eliminate this. Click on the H3. Remember your opening and your closing tab. Then copy and paste what I put there. Then second, we have an image. Now I want to check my file. Alright, let me quickly minimize this. Now this is the file that we are working with, and as you can see, these are the images. These are the images that are web e-commerce and web blog. This is web blog and this is web e-commerce. So when I open my my VS Code back again, I can easily click on. Now first of all, let me introduce to you the image tag img for putting images on your website. Now the image tag is one of the few elements in HTML that don't need a closing tag. They don't use a closing tag. They are self-closing on their own, so they don't need a closing tag. Then followed by a source attribute. Now this is a source attribute. It points to the location of the image you want to use. Now the image can be local on your file, just as in my case it's local, or the image can be somewhere external, just as I said with links. Alright, but we'll get back to that. So but we're working with local images now, and as I click and as I start typing the location of the image, you can see that my code editor is already bringing them out for me. because it's aware that they are within my folder. So I click on tab, and that's it. And when we go back, you can see that voila, we have an image here already. So that's pretty much it. Then secondly, we need a write-up, a simple website I build with HTML and CSS. So that will be within a paragraph tag. So when you are writing sentences and statements, they all fall within paragraph tag. So, and when I click on refresh, when I click on refresh here, you can see here. Now let's work on the item 2. First an h2, then an image tag. This time I'm going to click on tab so my code editor can bring that for me automatically. I'm clicking on tab, and you can see. Now I didn't talk about the alt tag. Now the alt tag is a way of describing it's an attribute, not a tag actually. The alt attribute, it's using the image tag, and it's a way of describing what your image is talking about. Yeah, because like as I said earlier, this is also very important for SEO. There are people with disabilities that cannot see. So if you put an image of in this case an e-commerce store there are people that cannot see, that are blind, but when a bot indexes this, it can speak it speaks what is in the alt tag. So if I put an e-commerce store, or let me see, an e-commerce website. Okay, so the bots, those are accessibilities, screen readers and the likes. They index this and they can speak it out to the users that this is an e-commerce store, that this image is showing an e-commerce store. So this alt tags is a description of your image. Then we need a tag. What did I use here? No, this is not correct. It should be an e-commerce store, so I'll correct it here. But first of all, let me put a project. All right, a very large e-commerce website. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, and when we refresh it, you can see that we are already getting there. Everything is here, and we've even corrected this. So let's go on to the next section, which is the contact me section, and it has to do with forms: name, email, and message. All right, let me space this out. Not bad. See, my AI is already coming along, and it has generated a lot of things for me, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to break this down for us section by section, rather than going with what my AI wants me to do. So section, the opening tag and the closing tab. Then first let's talk about h2, contacts me. So I hope you are understanding this. Opening tag, closing tag, opening tag, closing tag. Most HTML elements follow this pattern. Most of them follow this pattern of an opening tag and a closing tag section. Only a few, like the image tag I spoke about, and we are going to talk about the next one again that doesn't close. So we are getting to that. All right. Okay. So let's see what happens here. We have a name. All right. So when working with form, we can start with a label. Now the label is for the input. Now not necessarily that every form input you create, you have to put a label, but a lot of the times you would include a label. This is a label here. It shows you this the site, and when you click on the label, the input becomes active. Click on this, it becomes active. So that's how labels work. It points to an input. So it follows the same pattern. We have an opening tag and a closing tag. So I'm going to give this name. Let me say full name. Let me change it to full name. Full name. Then we now have the input. We have the input. All right. As you can see that my AI has already done that. It's already trying to let me just do it myself. Input. Now the input is another element that does not have a closing tag. It is also self-closing. It doesn't have a closing tag. And we have many types. We have the text input. We have the email input. We have so many types of it. We have the password input. We have so many types. So in this place, I'm working with text. And that's it. Now, so how do we point this label to this input? Because a label is something that you attach to an input. So in order for us to point this label to this input, we have to add an attribute, a for attribute. And as I said, an attribute just gives extra information about an HTML element. So this for now, we are going to give it a value of full name. Then this input, we are going to give it an ID attribute. Full name. Now this ID is a unique identifier. You are only allowed to have one ID per HTML page. So for this whole document, I can only have one ID that is called full name. So it's a unique identifier. It is bad practice for two elements to be using ID. If you do that, only one will be recognized. So typically it's usually the first one that comes in. So this ID is a unique identifier. So when I need a full name, we know that we are talking about this input. So when we say label to label input, and we give this input an ID of full name, we know that this label is for this input. As you can see here, it has come up already, and when I click on this label becomes active already. So for our next one, label, I'm just going to click on tab because I guess we already understand now. This is going to be for an email and column. So inputs, type, this type is going to be email. And what this types, okay, first of all, let me complete this. An ID of email, yes, I'll click on tab to just go on with what my AI wants at this point. So now what this type means, the first type we did was text. Second one we did was email. Now this type is majorly for email input validation. What that means is that it allows the input to behave in a way we want it to behave. Does that make sense? You don't want to, if I give this a type of email, it means I want the browser to only allow the browser will try its best actually, because this can be bypassed, but the browser will try its best that what enters here is only an email. That is if you really tell it to. It will try its best to make sure that what it can say. Because if I want an email here, I wouldn't want people just typing random things here. I want an email here. You understand? And this, if I want a text here, then you are allowed to put text in here. But if I want an email here, I don't want you putting random things here. I only want you to put an email here. As you can see here, please include an @ symbol in the email address. It's looking for an @ symbol, as you can see, because I'm telling it that this is an email. If I tell you that this is a password, for instance, now just observe and see what the browser is going to treat, how the browser is going to treat the input. Let me refresh this and click. Now I've told you that this is a password, not an email. Observe what it does. You see, it's going to hide the value of what you're imputing, because I've told you that this is a password input, so it's treating it like a password. It's blocking, it's reducting the value of what you're imputing, because people are not supposed to see your password when you are imputing. So let's go back to email. I hope you understand how that went. And then for the last one, is this. Now this is this kind of input. First of all, let me put down my label. I'm going to click on enter because I want this to be fast, but I hope you understand what is happening here at this point. The 4 is for attaching the label to an HTML input. So in this case, I'm going to give it a message, a value of message. And now for this actually, the first one was a straightforward input, a text input, which was short, just for my name. This was also short, but this input is for when you want to collect more information from your users. First name is short, input is short, but let's say you want something like tell us about you. Is there any more information you would like us to know about you? So those are inputs those are instances where you're asking the user to practically give us a lot of details about you. So this input is for collecting a large amount of detail. Does that make sense? So this input is called text area. The text area input follows. Now this one has a closing and opening tag, unlike the former ones, so it has an opening and closing tag. And you can see that this text area is the only one that I can expand, unlike this one, because it's meant to take in a large amount of data, or input in this case. You understand? That's what it's for. So when I go back to and I refresh, you can see that my label there's no value here. I'll give this an ID of message, and I refresh, and as you can see, it is a done deal, and that's it. Then secondly, what you see here is called, what you see here just before I click on something, this faded text is called a placeholder. So if I go back here, click on placeholder, okay, I think my AI is following along and my AI is guessing right. So at this point, I'm just going to go along with the flow with what my AI wants, because it's really disturbing me. So instead of writing this, I'll just click on tab and you can see it has completed. It's giving me another suggestion, but I don't want that. So my next input, placeholder, okay, I think it's giving, enter your email. As you can see, enter your email. So if I refresh this, it's already showing up here. Then for the message, your message is here. I can also equally give this a what is here, placeholder. Your message is here as is shown here. That is it there. And then this is a button. This is a button. And now when you have a button that comes in the last place in a form element, actually I forgot to use the form tag. This is how a form works in HTML. You use the form, sorry about that, an opening tag and a closing tag. Then all others, I'm going to cut that and paste that inside. So when you are creating a form in HTML, you have the opening tag and the closing tag. Then all other inputs go within the form. So when you have a button inside a form and it happens to be the last button within the form, it automatically defaults to be the submit button. When there's a button which is the last when there's a button which happens to be a last element in an HTML form, the browser sees it as a submit button. So it follows the same format. Button, this is how we apply button. Opening tag, closing tag, and you click on submit. If I refresh, you can see that this is the submit target. And I think that's all for the form. Yes, that's all. Now I can decide to group this form again using a div. So just so my code is clean, so I know that this is the this here is the name, the full name input. I know that this here is the email input. I know that this here is the text input, text area input. Now in cases like this, all I want to do is just group. I just want to group them, nothing much. So using a div is totally fine to use a div because I'm not trying to communicate any meaning. I just want it to be grouped to look clean. So using a generic div element is fine in this case. It's very okay in this case. And observe something. Once I refresh, observe what happened here. So you can see that they stack upon themselves because a div is a block element. Block means that it's the only one that appears in a line. It doesn't share the line with other elements. It's the only one that appears on a line. That's what a block element means. It appears solely on the line. It takes up the whole space on the line. It doesn't share with other elements. Now, if you don't want to use a div, you can use a span. These are the two generic elements in HTML, a div or a span. A span is just like a div. You can use it for wrapping. You can use it for wrapping any text. But a span is an inline element. It's not a block. So an inline can share up spaces with the rest. So you can decide to use a span if you would like to. I'm going to comment this out just so you can see it. Then moving on, we are done with this section. So contact section, this is the section, that's a form, that's an H2, and that's a form. So let's move on to the, before we move on to the last section, which is the footer section, let's first put up this link. Or you know what, let's go straight to the footer section for now. We'll come back to the link later on. Now we can decide to use a div again in this case, but like I said, it is not meaningful. Rather than using a div, we have the footer tag. Now the footer tag is it's another semantic tag. What it does is that it is usually placed as the last item on a page. So when we have bots coming to crawl your site and we see and they see a footer tag, what that tells them is that this is the last, it is the last item on a web page or the last item on a section. Yes, it can be used on the footer can also be used on a section, inside a section. So it is used in the last, on the floor of the section. If it is used in the main body, HTML body, then what that essentially means is that it's the last, it encloses the last set of elements in the HTML document. Alright, so that's basically it about the footer. Let's move on to the next thing, which is the naming. You can see there. Let me put this within the paragraph tab. Yes, you can use other elements within the footer. The footer is just a container that gives us the meaning that this everything within it is a footer, is at the footer of the page. But you can decide to embed other tags within you can decide to nest other tag within the footer. So in this case, we're nesting a paragraph tag, and this is it. Now to give this copyright symbol, we have to use ampersand and copy. So the ampersand symbol, copy, and semicolon. You can see that it turns green, it turns blue. Once I click it, it's highlighted blue, and when I refresh it, it gives us this icon. So you can see that we are almost done. So I'm going to go to links now. Now if you observe this link, when I click on them, they are going to their respective point. Now I'm going to do that now. So this href, this is where we were, and now I'm going up. So this is where the links are. This href now, it points to the location you want the link to take you to. So if I want this anchor tag to take me to this section, that means here to here, no, here to here, here to here, and the contacts to the contact section. So if I want the about anchor tag to take us to this section, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this section an ID, a unique identifier, an ID attribute. Good. Give it an about ID attribute, and then I'm going to click hash about. So this href is now pointing to this ID on this section. I'm going to do the same for the others too. So I'm going to give it an ID. You can see that my AI is taking over. So all I need to do is just click on the tab, project, and the last section, which is the contact section, ID, contact. So this one will point to project, while this will point to contact. So when I refresh, you will see that they are now taking me to the respective places. Yeah, that's basically it. And then one more thing, let me quickly add this go up here. So can you guess the tag we are going to use for that, for this go up? Just watch what happens when I click on the go up here. It takes me to the top of the page. So now, how do we implement that here? Can someone guess the tag we are going to use? It's an anchor tag. If you guess right, bravo. So opening tag and a closing tag. Opening tag, closing tag, followed by slash. Opening tag and a closing tag. That's the less than, greater than symbol, then a slash a and the less than symbol. Then we click on go up. Now you can decide, it is not compulsory you do it like this. You can always I just like to do it like that to make it more clean. You can use live and you will see your anchor tag. Okay, we need to add href. Now when we put a simple hash within an href, just hash, no hash something like about or anything, just hash. What that does is that it automatically goes to the top of the page. Yes. So if I refresh this, it should highlight blue, and when I click on it, it goes to the top of the page. I don't know why I didn't. Maybe I clicked submit by mistake. I think I clicked submit earlier. So when I click on this, it goes to the top of the page. So that's basically everything we talked about regarding this. But before we close, there's something I want to touch here. Now what we have done now is that we are pointing to a particular position in our page. What if we want to point to a page outside this page, an external link, maybe a link that points to another page on our website, or a link that points to another page outside of our website? For instance, now say I want to go to my portfolio website. I could just copy the link. So I want this about link to point to my portfolio, the finished portfolio website. I will just go to that same place. In that href, I will remove this and just copy and paste the full link to my website. Now if I refresh this and just hover over this, okay, this is it here. If I refresh this and just hover over this, observe this part. You can see that it's already reflecting my URL, while these ones are still reflecting the ones within this page. So if I click on it, it takes me here. So I hope that was easy to understand, and that's how we point to page, external pages, or pages outside our current page. So that's how we point to external pages. So I hope let's see, I think that's all we have. Any other thing we missed? No, that's all. So I hope this was easy to understand. If you have any other question regarding this, please don't forget to comment. Drop a question in the comment section. What else again? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me see, is there anything? We talked about section, we talked about the tags. We didn't talk about article tag. An article tag. Now, like I said, when you want to this tag is for when you want to discuss about something that can stand on its own. Let's say I wanted to include a blog on this page, maybe snippets from a blog, and that discusses about my freelancing experiences. So within my portfolio, I want to include a blog, and that job discusses about my freelance experience. Now, that my freelance experience, it's an independent topic. It can survive outside of this portfolio. I can put it here and it would make sense here. But even if I take it outside of this portfolio and I put it somewhere else, maybe on LinkedIn or somewhere else, it will still make sense. It will not lose its meaning. So it's an independent post. So typically I will use the article tag for that. I will have a heading and a paragraph, and that is practically what it means. So I hope this video makes sense. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel and like this video. Also, I would love you to create something similar to this. Let's take it as an assignment, and I would love to see the results on Saturday. Yes, on Saturday. That's when we touch on assignment. So please work with this, do something with this, play with it, try and work out something, and on Saturday we can review it. Now, if you would like me to see your assignment, just post it on Instagram, tag me, and put the hashtag Kende Ishawu there, an hashtag of Kende Ishawu, and make sure to tag me. I would definitely repost the top 3 assignments that I love, that I think are well placed. I'll repost the top 3. So yeah, that's the bulk of it. Now make sure you subscribe and make sure you like this video. That's the end. Thank you so much.